What's going on, everyone? So earlier today, the Los Angeles Lakers officially fired Darvin Ham. Saw that coming. We knew that that was inevitable. I mean, there was already reports. Even like Jovan Buha was like, it's going to happen this week, which makes sense, right? You want to kind of get off of everything now, get it out the way, so that way you can hopefully get your coach first before you go into like the draft, before you go into free agency, so that way your coach can sit down and you can kind of work through what you need to work through. So I do imagine that the Lakers are going to potentially get this done sooner rather than later. But we'll see how this progresses. Obviously, Tyronn Lue is a guy that the Lakers apparently really want. There's rumors about the Clippers are looking to give him an extension. Does he end up leaving? We'll see. We'll see how it goes later on down the road. But look, again, Darvin Ham, I'm rooting for his future success elsewhere. I think maybe he has potential. We'll see to be a quality head coach in this league. Maybe a team like Charlotte ends up landing him, and he's great for them, and ends up being their coach for the next 15 years or whatever. I'd love to see it, right? I never want to root for anyone's downfall. I always want to see people have success. He just wasn't the proper coach for what we need right now as a team that is in win now mode, win now position, right? We're a team that we need a coach that can lead the charge and handle business and properly structure rotations and properly utilize the players that are on this roster and get the most out of them. On top of that, be able to manage the game better than Darvin Ham could. Right? He had his moments. There were sequences in which you're like, oh man, that was really good. But for the most part, he had his hiccups. So hopefully he goes to a place that can be a little more patient with him, because we are not in that position. But the Lakers decided to also let go of the entire coaching staff, which is fine, right? Usually that's how it goes. But they also let go of Phil Handy. I don't know how I feel about that. Like, if you asked me, did I think that this would happen? Probably. Right? I probably would have said, yeah. I think that they'll just clean, fresh break. Right? But Phil Handy is one of, if not the best player development coaches, right? Like, now, is it possible that Phil Handy asked, like, hey, can we just, because look, Phil Handy was even vocal about him not getting an opportunity before they hired Darvin Ham, right? That he's wanted that opportunity to potentially move into a head coaching position where, he's not even a lead assistant, right? He's a development guy. But that's like his bread and butter. That's what he's best at. I really like Phil Handy a lot. And I know many Laker fans love Phil Handy. But I don't just love Phil Handy just because, he's a great guy that gets along great with players. No, I think he's a great guy that gets along with players, but he's also excellent at his job in developing and really kind of creating these role players and upgrade. I mean, look what he did with Rui Hachimura in the time that he was here, right? Even last year, right? Like, Rui Hachimura's shot was broken. Phil Handy worked with him. Remember, Rui got benched and wasn't even being played for a stretch. Phil Handy worked with him. I mean, Rui even credited Phil, got the little hitch out of his shot, and then we got to the playoffs, or he got back in the lineup, we got to the playoffs, and he was all of a sudden shooting the lights out. And then looking into this season, right? Phil Handy was also the one telling Rui, like, dude, you need to get with LeBron and just mirror him all off season. Again, you saw those strides. So I really like Phil Handy was the one guy I wanted them to keep. But does he look at it as like, they're not going to give me an opportunity to move up, right? I'm always just going to be a development coach. Does he look at it as like, hey, if I can go somewhere, give me an opportunity to go somewhere to potentially move up the ladder, right? That's always a possibility, right? If everyone's getting fired, right? There's also the likelihood that the Lakers just are like, hey, let's clean slate this thing, right? Let's move off of all the coaches. We love Phil Handy. We'd love for him to stick around, but we need to start. We need to just clean break. Let's hire a new coach. Let them bring in their new staff just from the ground up, right? Like, that is something that I could see happening. But like, who are you going to get that's better than Phil Handy? Again, Phil Handy is, in my opinion, the best in the business. And in most people's opinion, the best in the business. Right? This guy has had success everywhere he's gone as far as like the development coach. Right? So, granted, in the same breath, right? The Lakers the next like 2-3 years are really trying to push for championships, right? Like they want to try to get something done now with LeBron and Anthony Davis. That's why there's all the talks about a third star who could potentially help now, kind of raise the ceiling for the Lakers, but also help post LeBron James. So you're kind of in that spot where it's like, okay, like I get it. So it's like, Phil Handy, like the idea is like we're gonna make this like veteran-led team that, has multiple stars, that has quality pieces around it, that, like we're probably trading all our picks. We're not gonna have a ton of young guys that are gonna need work and development, right? Like, and if we do, we could send them to like the G League development department, right? So I mean, again, to an extent, I get it. I would have liked Phil Handy to stick around because it's like, I do think he has good qualities, good values. He has good relationships with, LeBron and these other guys that are Anthony Davis, guys that are on this team, obviously Rui Hachimura, which also kind of signals to me that they're probably going to trade Rui Hachimura because, like, Phil Handy was, like, Rui's guy, right? Like, just something to keep in mind, right? Like, this, like, moving off of Phil Handy just further validates, in my opinion, that the Lakers are going to go and push hard to really upgrade this roster in the form of like another star, all-star, try to get multiple, like really just kind of just push our chips to the table. Let's get the coach we like. Let's get the coach that we believe in, that we think can do this. Let's push our chips to the table and try to go win a championship in the next year or two, right? So also, it begs the question of like, do the Lakers, like what are the Lakers looking for, right? See, like Mike Budenholzer, which, again, if he gets signed, sure, but he's kind of, Darvin Ham learned everything from Mike, right? Like, Bud is basically an upgrade, like an adult version of Darvin Ham, right? Like, Bud was fired for a lot of the same reasons Darvin Ham was just fired, right? Losing guys in the locker room, not properly utilizing timeouts, right? Like, not properly utilizing and maximizing your players, right? Like, it's like, mirrored image. But he does have a championship, right? And he was a coach that led, the Milwaukee Bucks with Giannis and no other real like superstar star to, 60 wins or whatever it was, right? But granted, it's also the Eastern Conference compared to the Western Conference, right? Like for example, like you look at Milwaukee this year and you look at the Lakers, they are nearly mirrored identically, except the Lakers had more high value wins than Milwaukee. So basically what I'm saying is that like if you put Milwaukee, right, and the success, well, I know that they lost in the first round, but if you take the success that they had and you swap them and you move them to the West and you take the Lakers and you move them to the East, the Lakers probably would have finished the 2 seed, right? Because they would have played an easier schedule. They would have just everything, right? If they would have still maintained the high quality wins, they probably would have still wouldn't have caught Boston, but they would have probably finished the 2 seed, right? So, that's something to keep in mind and factor. But the other side of that is like, do you go the youth route and go for the long-term coach, right? To me, if the Lakers sign Bud, I kind of feel like, or somebody similar, right? Even Ty Lue to an extent, I kind of look at that as like, okay, the plan here is let's get a head coach for LeBron's tenure, because there's a lot of talk about LeBron signing a 3-year, $164 million, whatever, right? So to me, it's like, okay, let's get a new coach, sign them for LeBron and basically 80's tenure, because they line up. So you get a new coach for 4 years, LeBron sells off to the sunset, you figure out what you're going to do with Anthony Davis, and then you hire a new coach, right? Like that's kind of what I think the Lakers are going to look to do. Now, if they sign, say, a J.J. Redick, then I think then they're signing him for the long haul, right? Because you're signing a guy that's like not even 40 yet, I don't even think J.J. Redick's 40, right? So, like, signing a guy that's like, okay, if he's great, then we have him for the next 20-plus years. So, to me, I think that this next coach is going to be very telling. I think that whoever this next head coach is, Lakers sign to mirror LeBron and Anthony Davis's contracts, right? But if it's like a more veteran-led head coach, then I think, and I look at it as like, okay, that is the Lakers signaling that this is basically who we got during the LeBron tenure, and then the Lakers will look for that new head coach, that younger head coach that they can like kind of rebuild, retool with, right? But if they sign again, like a JJ Redick, a Rajon Rondo, somebody like that, then I think that's somebody that it's like, okay, this is the guy that we're hoping and banking on to be our head coach. That we don't have to find another head coach. Like this is our Phil Jackson. Right? I'm not saying that he'll ever be as great as Phil Jackson. I'm talking about like the tenure of like, hey, we keeping him long term, like our Greg Popovich, right? Again, not speaking in the sense of like the resume. I'm talking in the sense of like a guy that you have for the next 20 years, right? Like that, I think is kind of. I think that that'll probably be the approach one way or the other. So, again, I don't know this for certain. It's just kind of like, it makes sense, right? But, again, a little bummed about Phil Handy. I would have liked them to keep him long term. I wish that he would have stuck around with the Lakers. But I get it, right? You get a clean break, you might as well clean break. You might as well wash it all clean and just start from scratch. But you got to get this right. You got to get this right. You cannot mess this up. You cannot mess around. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion. Pass question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel? Do you trust that the Lakers get this right? Who do you want to see be the head coach? What are your thoughts on Phil Handy no longer being with the Lakers? Again, that's the one I'm bummed with. Like all the other ones, like fine. Like that's cool. Right? That usually, I mean, that was to be expected, right? When you fire the head coach, you usually get rid of the entire coaching staff also. But I would have, like, Phil Handy was the one guy. Like, he carried over from the Vogel one, right? Like, that they kept him from the Vogel thing. So I'm most curious of, like, what those conversations went like behind closed doors. Like, was it Phil, like, you know what? Like, I want to try to get an opportunity elsewhere to move up, right? And they were like, all right, fine, we'll give it to you. Curious. But anyway, again, love to hear your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. So we enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.